Hi, Gail.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
You must have, James must have told you about our conversation.
Yeah, he said you stopped by.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you're out for a big walk, huh?
I was out for a big walk. There's a beautiful trail I discovered that runs from the swamp on the south side of the swamp all the way up to the Coles, network of
Oh,
roads,
wow, yeah.
which I'd never been on before. I didn't even know it existed. I mean, there's something marked on the topo maps, but it's really it doesn't indicate that kind of a route at all. So it's a very beautiful trail. It must be great for cycling.
Yeah, I still have not made it to the new trail. My bike has a series of flat tires and needs some love. And so I need to, do that before I get over there. But anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. It's been such a warm fall. It's been great to just get, be out so much more than other years.
Yeah. Well, Graham has taken that trail and it gets his stamp of approval. So
Okay.
on his bike.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
figured that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah.
But I walked it just yesterday, as a matter of fact. It's become one of my favorite walks. And then I followed the trail of the path sort of goes straight ahead. It reaches a four-way intersection over by Sibley Swamp. And I'd never been on the fourth leg of it, which ran north. And I was curious to see where that goes. But that doesn't go very far. It leads to a sort of a camping spot on Sibley. On the Sibley, what's now actually a pond more than a swamp. The beavers have done a very good job at holding back the water. And it's a very good size pond or lake with a big beaver hut right in the middle. And someone has set up a fire pit there, and it looks like it's sort of a popular place to set up a tent and spend the night or something to that effect. But interesting what you find out there in the woods these days.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We got Steve and Graham coming in.
All right.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. All right, there they are.
And this is actually going to be it for tonight because Craig is in the Rockies. He's in the middle of this country in Colorado.
What's he doing out there?
I don't know. I think maybe he's just vacationing or with family.
Oh, maybe Thanksgiving things.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And there's Graham. Graham, you all set for the big outing this Saturday at 10 in the morning?
You're muted, Graham.
You're still muted.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Gail. Hi, Jim. Hi, Graham.
Hello.
There you are.
There,
Hi.
all right.
Well, welcome everyone. Good to see your faces after a month. This is going to be it for tonight. Craig is in the Rocky Mountains right now, so he will not be joining us.
Cool. At first I heard that something about a Rocky. As in, what are you doing in Iraq?
Well.
All right. Well, let's get started. First order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from October 20th. Jim sent around the document for that, so I'd like to make a motion to do so.
Move to
Second motion.
Great. And all in favor of approving minutes as submitted? And we're supposed to do roll call vote, so I'll just call it the name. So Jim?
Yes.
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Graham? Yeah, okay. All right, great. All right, hut report. Graham, anything special going on with our favorite hut?
Our favorite hut looked fine when I flipped the HVAC. I only got to that. It always happens sometime during the month. It happened today, in fact, today. And only a couple of ladybugs were in there from our latest surge of ladybugs, so that's good. And everything was in order. Yeah, I looked at the trouble reports for the month, and there was small numbers as per usual. I remember the event of the month was something the report came 2 weeks ago, so I've actually forgotten all the things that I read there. But I don't know, maybe it was Wi-Fi calling dropped out for a bunch of people. There was something that had a few of us calling. It wasn't Wi-Fi calling, it was something else. But anyhow, generally good. One thing I would, because one of our customers phoned up at the weekend, and their Crocker voice over IP phone wasn't working, and they had put in on Saturday afternoon. They called it in, and they had sent an email to service at Crocker, and I guess for a phone, they don't have to get back before Monday, right? A phone problem is business hours. Is that your understanding, Gail?
No, actually, we do dispatches on the weekends for phone and internet. We made the decision that we, because the maintenance was relatively low, and to keep customers happy, just fix them.
Oh, yeah.
If it's not an emergency, it's not like 3 a.m. it's going to get run, but they will get dispatched when
Yeah.
daylight hours. So yeah, for any type of issue that requires a technician, they should have
Okay.
rolled a truck.
Then with a voice over IP problem, I told the customer to power cycle the ONT. You don't need to power cycle the router in that situation, and to power cycle it was a what do you call it, a cordless phone. So power cycle the base station of the cordless phone, and make sure that there is power on the base station, and she did those things, and I said, okay, now write that in an update to Crocker, to the service email, and she did this on Sunday morning, then about 10 o'clock, to tell them that you've done these things and you know that you don't have dial tone, and therefore ask them to reset or unblock the voice over IP service. They don't have to roll a truck to do that. They do have to get a technician to log in, and I said, make a careful note and ask them in your email to tell you when that happens, because I was curious to see
Right.
when it first got attended to, and it didn't get attended to until 8:30 on Monday morning. So therefore I kind of, and it turned out that when they tried to unblock it, they found that it looked like it was unblocked. So the next step, as we all know, was take your base station phone, or test the ONT thing. She did. She's got a house wiring problem, and they said correctly that she should get an electrician to check what's wrong with her house wiring, telephone house wiring, and of course I'll go along and do that instead of an electrician. But anyhow, it was interesting that no one, that the Crocker didn't do that step until Monday morning. So we should remind them then that that's not meeting the
Yeah, the SLA is there.
Yeah. If that's the SLA, then they didn't meet it then.
All right.
Can you take that up with Tim, Gail?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Graham, can you give me
Yes.
the ticket number on that?
I will. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good way to do it. You're right.
Yep.
Cool. I'll put that on my do list.
Yep. In my day job, the Cengage here, we can't do anything without a ticket number. We can't do absolutely anything. without
Big
without
numbers.
that.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. Let's see. I have some maintenance and service things if you're done, Graham.
yep, all good.
Okay. So Crocker is going to run the failover test of our new gigabyte MBI circuit in the late evening between December 1 and December 2. It'll be less than a half hour, lowest use time. They realize that they really can't test it without shutting off the Crown Castle. Make sure it does the correct failover. So I'm glad they're doing that. Should not see any customer issues because in those wee hours, the gig backup is going to be enough. I mean, I suppose if the failover doesn't happen, that there might be a blip, but they're watching it. So it'll be minutes if something goes wrong.
Can you ask them to add, even if it's a second trace that always runs, could you ask them to add the scrutinizer, add the MBI circuit to the scrutinizer thing? It would be probably a second channel on the scrutinizer, and mostly that channel will be flatlining, but we want to see it pop up to 1 megabyte, even though they will say, oh yes, it worked and it worked fine. It would be wonderful for us to see that we're getting value for money, that it pops up to 1 gigabyte and then it drops down when they shut the test off. So, and also we'll be able to see whether it saturates. And I suppose they'll do it in the service window, right? Would they do it late at night or something like that?
Yeah, like
early
3 in the morning or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So even then, it'll be fascinating to see how the MBI comes up and how it carries the load. So
When is this?
They might need one more channel on the scrutinizer because it may not be that they can. If they can watch them both on one channel, then that's great. But I don't know that that's how it is. No.
Yeah, December 1, Jim.
December 1st. Okay.
Yeah.
Early in the morning.
Well, I guess technically the early wee hours of December 2.
Yeah.
Right, because it's the night of the 1st, which is the morning of the 2nd.
Yep.
I'm glad they're doing the test this way, because I remember, Graham, you and I had talked about this a while ago, that before all the issues had come up with the Crown Castle failure, that, well, Crocker should do a test where they just, essentially unplug that Crown Castle line and see, does the MBI line really kick in? So, I mean, that's the only way you really know something's working, is to try and do it that way. So I think it's good they're doing that.
Yeah, it is an absolutely standard operating procedure to make sure that any emergency system it will work. And that's why we run the generator every month, or week.
Every week. Every week it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, even that test doesn't prove it's not a test of the switch. So, what we really need to do would be to shut off the breaker in the hall to the hut and see what happens.
Yeah, it might be that we should ask Pachurik to do that once a year when they do their normal maintenance thing. But then that'll be in the middle of the day. It's like one of those things that you probably don't want to do it. You just kind of like cross your fingers that the cutover switch is going to work.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked. It's worked in the past. We've lost power. The generators.
It absolutely has.
So we've proved it out that it does work.
Good
That's
point.
true.
Utility has failed enough to test it.
Yeah. All right. So we keep kicking the decision about routers down the road of how we're going to handle that with our customers. So we have 7 on hand now. 10 is kind of our lower limit. That's the trigger for Crocker to order more. And they're still running about $90 to $100 per router. There's no installations in the pipeline currently. We've had like maybe half a dozen installations this year. There's nothing scheduled for the rest of this year, nothing on the horizon. So the decision point is, do we keep supplying new installs with routers? Do we just kind of let the 7 dwindle to maybe 3 and then they'll force the choice? Should we order another 7? If I ordered another 7, it would probably last another 2 years, of covering new installations. If anybody's router goes, if it conks out, it's up to them to replace it. We're not replacing routers, but that's another decision that we could look at of,
If somebody's router failed, could we replace it and charge the customer for it?
we could.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Because in fact, let's say mine failed. Well, rather than have to go online to Amazon, which I wouldn't be able to do because my router wasn't working.
Right.
Right, Jim, good luck.
I'd rather just say, hey, I'll just buy it from the MLP, pay this, pay whatever
Mhm.
the cost is and be done with it. And that way I still stay with the same model that everybody else is using. So I don't think it's harmful to have a few extras on hand.
Yeah, I mean, another thing we could do is subsidize it, right? Instead of, say it's roughly $100, we pay half of it. The customer pays the other half for a replacement. The advantage of that is it prevents customers from going out and buying crappy routers that
You mean
then,
subsidize it when the price does go up? Because at the moment, the price is about $100, right?
correct.
Okay, so we don't have, okay, I think we should recommend that they get the one that is like standard. But I don't think we need to, pay for it. When it costs $200, or when the next model comes out, I think we should subsidize that just for the sake of keeping them, Linksys in the same sort of family, right?
Well, when that happens,
Let's worry about that when it happens.
Okay.
yeah, when it comes time for that kind of upgrade, that's going to come out of our depreciation account, which we've been feeding for several years now.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
we've already worked that in of basically new routers for everybody. If they want it when the time comes. Really the question is how do we handle the next, I don't know. It would really be close to 4 years before we're due to do replacements. And even then, I mean, I getting a new router every 7 years, those routers, I mean, if they don't conk out, they're probably going to be good for a decade.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and Gail, on a new installation, I know Crocker charges a certain amount and then we get so much, but is the customer still paying 200 for an installation?
the customer is always pays at least $200.
Which is the same as we paid initially, everybody paid
Right.
initially.
That's a
So-
yeah.
So giving a customer a router, the 200 as part of the $200 installation fee, I think it's a good idea because it keeps us keeping those same Linksys routers in everybody's house,
Yeah.
keeps that uniformity there. So I'd say order some more. Don't have to go overboard on it, but Jim?
Are we, it seems to me that this model is obsolete. There was a version 2 of it, and that came out with a newer firmware. But I have a feeling that, like all these router manufacturers, they turn over and they come up with a bigger, better, more, one the following year or something like that. I'm not sure we can get them. Let's put it that way.
No, we can still get them.
Oh,
Yeah,
EA
I've already checked
7300?
on that. They're
Oh,
still being
okay.
sold.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say get another 6 or 10 or so,
Absolutely. Yeah. Great idea.
Okay.
and it's
All
not
right.
that much money. We've got the money and keeps things simple.
All right. I'm gonna get another 10, and that will cover all of our new installations for at least the next 3 years. And then also if anybody's router conks out and they want to buy one from us,
Yeah.
we'll let them do that.
Way to go.
Okay. All right. Other supplies, I'm gonna get about 15 of those calyx wall warts that we were talking about. It just taken a long time to get the quote from calyx. So I have not forgotten. It's just taking a long time.
And
So
Yeah,
as UPSs die, we'll be able to give them something straight away. But
Right.
And so will both the routers and the wall warts be stored at Crocker's
Correct.
equipment, Shutesbury, dedicated Shutesbury equipment cage?
Correct.
Okay.
I have a couple of spare power supplies, not a whole lot of them, but because I did retrieve some from Certex when they were doing the installations.
Yeah,
So,
just
I mean, if an emergency comes up, I mean, I'm saving them for repairs, of course.
right. That's
It's good for
great.
you to have them, Jim,
Yeah.
in case you get called out on a service call.
Well,
Right. Well,
that's what they're
That's what they're there for. And I can just imagine, a battery conks out, and that's one of the disadvantage of our kind of setup is that there's you have no way to plug in your ONT if your battery goes bad.
Mhm.
So that's great that we have some in town too.
Well, speaking of those backup battery power supplies that we recommended people buy, I mean, they should, even if the battery goes dead, they should continue to supply power as long as there's AC power to begin with. I mean, that's the way they all work.
Mhm.
They may only stay up for a minute or two, after the power fails, but that's going to happen within, I would say, 5 to 7 years, because the routers, the power supplies in Leverett, which are calyx power supplies with lead acid batteries inside of them, they're now all beginning to fail, slowly but surely, or weaken significantly, so that they don't provide much of a backup.
Yeah, the problem with ours is that once the battery gets below a certain thing or a certain amount, the unit starts beeping and it will not stop. It will not stop, and you can only shut it off for 24 hours at a time. And actually, just this week, I had a complaint from someone it was the first unit failure of, and I'm like, sorry, it's out of warranty. We'll provide you with a wall wart. I did tell her that she should plug it into a different outlet in her house to make sure it wasn't the outlet's fault. But anyway, that's even it does not work as a plain old conduit because of the beeping issue.
Oh, forgot about that.
Yeah.
So Jim, you believe the float voltage on the battery will ignore a defunct battery? Is that how it's likely to work? That even without a wall wart, that the charger will just keep the UPS the ONT happy with 12 volts. Is that your guess?
Yeah, they continue to. Well, that's the way most of them work. Having serviced some of those APC battery backup, they start beeping away and doing crazy things. They
So
still
battery
do.
can't short out. A lead acid battery doesn't often short out. Okay. They're not actually, well, they're lead acid, but they're a chemical. What is the term?
Gel cell.
Gel cells. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
They fail open, do they? They don't fail short.
I've never seen them fail short.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, that'll help a lot. Yeah.
All right, Steve, in the last meeting, we had been talking about how many customers are paying for the internet phone bundle, and it's 527 is the number.
527 getting the
Phone service. Yep.
And so the balance is internet only.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure.
I'll leave the right for you to put on there. Less than a cup is plenty.
527 for what was that?
Customers with phone service,
Okay.
which is, It's a lot in my mind.
Wow, that's some surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
So, sorry, I missed that. Did we lose a few more? What was the lot?
527 customers have phone service,
Oh, okay.
which is a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know, still hovering around 2/3 there. All right, should we talk about the real moving party on Saturday? So 10 a.m. at the Highway Barn. We should
Yep.
probably bring gloves. You're gonna bring something to put through the axle hole of them
Yep.
so we can actually move them.
Yep.
And anything else we needed to discuss about
Nah,
that?
if you have gloves, that'll be that's good. You don't need safety glasses unless we have a real
We hope
explosion.
not. We hope not.
And we don't need my tractor, is that true?
Nah, yeah,
We can-
one person really can push these things to get them up.
Steve
the
looks
6
so
inches.
skeptical.
Yeah.
Steve, we're.
To get them 6 inches off the ground, two people on
Yeah,
the axle will
Good.
do it. So yeah. And
Well,
and I'll bring labeling stuff so that it's more clear which reels are which, and we'll put the 5 that are most likely to be needed
yeah.
at the front. I did look at the original fiber we ordered, and more than 40% of all of our fiber is 144, which surprised me. So you would figure that that maybe half of our it was well more than it was almost half, and so half of our breaks could be 144, the 144 fiber. So that's interesting and good.
It's the trouble with taking notes and remembering what you wanted to say at the same time. I'll remember what it was.
All right, let us know when it comes back to you.
Okay.
All right, Steve, you're up with financial report.
Yeah, our current balance of the enterprise fund is $131,655, and really don't have anything else to report financially. The income is staying very steady at 39,000 and a few hundred every month. It's always 39,000 and something. I think 1 month I
Right.
think it hit 40,000. And the bills come in and we pay them, and so all looks pretty good there.
It's almost a boring business to be in. It's just so predictable.
Yeah, we're a legacy business here.
Yep. We all need to take up golf.
Oh, okay.
So we do have the meeting with FinCom coming up on February 22nd. So we'll need to work out a budget. So Steve, I think what I'll do is set up a Zoom meeting with you in late December, so you and I can do a budget meeting, and then we'll take it to the rest of the team at our January meeting.
Okay.
And then we still have one more meeting before our February meeting with FinCom to tweak it.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. The only fly in this plan is that pending the contract negotiations, we may not have all the numbers yet, right? Because it's a moving target. So lots of our costs are fixed, but some of them we may have to make best estimates. So one of the questions I have is, can you remind me, does FinCom ultimately have to approve our budget? Or is this more of a courtesy to them of say, hey, this is what our budget is. We don't need anything from you, money from the town.
I mean, FinCom, sorry, Jim, but FinCom actually has no power.
Yeah, it's a courtesy.
Okay.
We're
For
just
every
doing-
department, the FinCom doesn't actually approve. They recommend things, but it's town meeting that approves. And so, of course, in our case, where there's no appropriation, it's definitely, as Jim says, a courtesy to go to FinCom, tell them what we're doing, what our plans are. And, it's even more than a courtesy. I mean, I can see why they'd be interested in what we're doing, but
It's an oversight function, isn't it? It's looking over the shoulder of all the town.
yeah.
business.
But since there's no appropriation coming from us, we can just explain, well, here's where we're at, here's where we expect things to be. And, but it's really, as long as we have it ready for town meeting or a couple of weeks before town meeting, we're fine.
Okay.
Even
So, yeah, when we meet with FinCon, then we'll just highlight any of the numbers. We're it's going to be a range here. And I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem with it because we are not asking them for any money.
and we've still got 4 months.
Yeah.
Things will become clearer in the next 4 months, I hope.
They're gonna have to be, we have to have our, if we are going to extend the contract with Crocker, it has to be done, what is it, by April, because our contract expires in June, so it's 3 months.
And if we're not going to do that, we need to get moving.
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
sooner.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the executive session to find out what's going on.
Yes. Well, I'll do a spoiler alert. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to share with that. It took here's what happened. It took almost 2 full weeks to get a hold of Donna because she was in trial. So she just didn't have any time to have a talk with me. So I had my talk with her, and then I reached out to Matthew and gave everything, and he's out of the country and won't be returning until after Thanksgiving. So anyway, I'm going to hit this hard after Thanksgiving, and depending on what happens, I may call a special meeting at some point in December, like just a full executive session for us to just focus on that. So anyway, sorry, nothing exciting to share. Stay tuned.
Out of the country sounds exciting. What country did he go to?
I don't know. He just said out of the country.
And I'm impressed that, does that mean that Tim is doing such a good job that Matt can leave? And
I guess so. Yeah.
we hope so.
When is this, Gail, when are you and Steve going to meet to set in, when is it? December?
Sometime in December, because we want to be ready for our team for our January meeting to present the budget to all of you.
But that's separate from the ISP renewal.
Correct.
That's just our regular operating budget.
Yeah, this is just us getting ready for fiscal year. Let's see, tomorrow I am meeting with a security firm at E+. They're headquartered in Virginia, so they're the folks that are going to be working on our security proposal. So stay tuned on that one.
This is what again? Who?
It's a company called E+, and they're working on a security evaluation proposal.
It'll be interesting to see what they want to charge for such a service, won't it?
Yeah. It could, I'm a little nervous that it might price us out. There's 4 people from their team coming to the meeting to ask questions.
Whoa.
So I'm like, oh,
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to work. So I'll try to kind of feel them out, because I don't want them to waste their time either.
Yeah,
And,
tell them just 2 people should come. That's gee.
yeah. And well, I don't want them to go do a big workup and then come back being like, yes, or, it's going to be, $20,000. Actually, this is a good question we should talk about here. What would be our upper limit for something like this, of when we as a team would say doing a security evaluation, doing that kind of due diligence actually isn't worth it because it's just too costly to have an outside firm do this for us? Ballpark?
Oh, boy.
Okay, I'd look at it as what I would pay as I would say, I I'd spend $10 on that, and then multiply by 800 customers, 8,000. So, maximum
10,000?
15,000. It would be, would I pay $20? Would I pay, yeah, I'd pay $20, but I wouldn't think it would be worth $30 because our biggest security vulnerability is all of us. It's all of our
Right.
customers. 800, is it 800? Whatever
Yeah.
the number, 750, 770. That we get that we get an infection that as soon as I start with a 1 gigabit per second problem, virus, whatever, that's communicating to probably some of you guys, then as soon as you get 10 of them, then we're saturating our links. So there won't be anything there will be things that they could propose that Crocker does in the hut and that Crocker does with their firewalls, or that they ask whether Crocker is doing them. But the real bang for buck would be us to give best practices, and the bang for buck would be for Crocker to put some control in so that if someone does start saturating with a virus at a gigabit to my problem, that it looks at that intelligently and says, there's something wrong here. I'm going to throttle this person back to 100 megabits per second until, or shut them off totally. Either one. But
Yeah.
that is the piece that, and I would hope this any evaluation would point that out and tell us what tools should be put in for that, because that really is where our vulnerability is.
So all we're worried about is that someone will come along and suck up a tremendous amount of bandwidth, and that's our primary concern.
Well, that would shut us down, wouldn't it? I mean, if 10 people got a virus in our town and we all share each other's, there's enough people in the social networks within town who share, as soon as you've hacked my contact list, some of you guys end up, with exposure to that risk. And so it wouldn't be hard to get, if I got a virus in my system here, it wouldn't be hard. Immediately that virus would spread within the other computers that live in this location, but it would expose other people, any other people that I know, because once they've got my contact list or whatever, or they can misrepresent themselves as me, then they send, you know how it works. So it trickles out to it immediately. It's likely to compromise more than one if one person gets compromised. So I don't know. They know these things better than I do, but you can end up. You want to be able to isolate someone. You want your system to be looking at the traffic going to a person and recognizing there is a problem here. This is not typical behavior. This viruses have patterns that are totally recognizable, mostly because they suddenly jump up and they stay up. So somehow or other, that's the thing that we should be asking, what is that thing that we need to make us all safe from that big vulnerability?
So to get back to Gail's question of how much should we spend, we can have a ceiling of what we're willing to spend, but also it depends on what they're providing. So we need to see a proposal, and we of course we look at the bottom line of the proposal of how much it's going to cost, but see what's contained within that proposal. For $5,000, they'll look at da-da-da. But Graham, if you look at the proposal and say, yes, but they're not even considering A, B, and C, and I say, I don't think we're getting much value for our money here. But if they if they are addressing the issues that you've pointed out as important, then it would be worth more to us and we might be willing to pay more.
Yes, okay. We should be able to look at the proposal and
Yeah.
and say, okay, well, we don't need that, but we do need this, or we need more of this. So, and hopefully, I don't know, Gail, you might want to hint at the meeting that, you know, that we're not that we're not a big bucks.
Oh, I've explained it of,
Okay.
you know, our situation, and
Yeah.
yeah, we're not Comcast folks.
Yeah, when they see our customer size, it's going to be obvious that.
Well, a concern, isn't Crocker now sort of watching over this in some sort of a manner? Because when I think back to Leverett's problem, when someone turned up and sucked up, what was it, 28% of their bandwidth because they were doing, Bitcoin mining or something like this, and they found and located him pretty quickly because they noticed the aberration. Here was one person who was sucking up all this bandwidth, and then the MLP did something about it. Wouldn't they be doing much the same sort of thing currently for us?
Yes, they're doing that, but this security audit is a lot more than just that.
Yeah, well,
What we're really asking this firm to provide is third-party oversight for best industry practices, because none of us know this. And Crocker, they've been doing this for several years. I think they're pretty skilled, but I think it's a good idea to do some due diligence on our end to make sure that someone's looking over Crocker's shoulder and to make sure that we really are following best industry practices to prevent all sorts of issues, whether it be, individual virus attacks to crypto mining to whatever it is. A lot of things, like, I don't even know what the risks are. So I'm hoping that that's something that they'll tell us. So, all right, I'm going to ask for some different tiers of service and kind of a la carte pricing, so that if they are, I'll try to steer them away from a whole package deal, so that we can customize their proposal to meet our needs and get it priced within our budget. And that was kind of what I was thinking of, some, under 15,000 to get this done. So.
And you can point out that if it helps us, if we have a good experience with them, there are other towns that'll want to do there might be other towns. We have plenty of friends out here in Western Massachusetts that they might just copy what we do. But Crocker does run a firewall against, to rescue us from some ills. And I think in that list, they didn't just call it, Crocker didn't just call it a firewall. They actually named what the firewall was, right? Because that would be the question. That would be the first question that the security company should say, well, what exactly is the firewall? So I think I saw that it did have a actual name. So, how that firewall works is, and what options that firewall has, they might certainly have opinions and suggestions on what should be, firewalls are like, they'll have usually dozens of different things that you can do or not do, and they might have suggestions on that. So,
okay. Excuse the typing sounds in the back. I'm just taking some notes. Okay. All right. I have a random question related to some of the contract stuff I'm going to be talking about, and that is, which one of you has a contact at Collins Electric?
I do.
You do. Okay.
Absolutely. I've got a few.
Okay. All right. I'm going to talk to you offline then, Graham, about some things. Because this is the Triwire is totally bankrupt. They have been acquired by another firm that is not honoring our contract for maintenance any longer.
Yep.
By our contract.
Well, I mean,
Crocker.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So Crocker needs to find someone. Yep.
It's not our problem. Crocker has to provide these services. So Crocker is working with Surtex on the time being until they can get something more permanent in place.
Okay.
Okay. But all of that is kind of wrapped up in our contract extension negotiations, because this is another wild card that's been thrown in, is that the vendor that was doing this is no longer.
And I guess I'm assuming there's no longer a warranty issue on our network with Tri-Wire. We're past probably 1 year.
I think it might be 5 years, but that's only in like gross negligence or, really terrible construction
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A big tree doesn't count
Right.
as a warranty. No.
And fortunately, they did do a good job by all,
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's right.
all
No,
indications. So
they did.
All right. So another random thing we need to talk about is there's $1,500 in our broadband gift
Yeah.
expense account. It's under general government expenses. This was a gift that was given by Asha's company. It was just a corporate gift, no restrictions, just community impact gift. So it's not taxpayer money or individual private donations. It's really is a just open money for us. So we had bookmarked this for the big, some kind of big celebration. I feel like the time has passed. It was 2 years ago. It's like, it's done, whatever. So I have an idea. I was thinking that we could donate it to our health department, or rather for the town to do something on behalf of our health department. I recently learned that throughout the entire pandemic, our health department was meeting every single day for like 5 hours, working around the clock, trying to get personal protective gear for people in the town. They just did an insane amount of behind the scenes coordination and work, meeting with people from the state. So kind of like the unsung heroes of, the past 2 years. Just an idea of, we could give
Let
that.
them have the party.
Let them have the party, and maybe they'll invite us. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
the only thing I'm thinking about public health issue, this is a big thing in Baker's new budget is major improvement to a local public health departments. And I had a thought on this money, this broadband funding, if there'd be some way that we could continue the funding for people that don't, I'm not coming up with the word here, but
like subsidies or scholarships or that kind of thing.
low income people. And of course, we've got 2 programs running on that right now, but one of them is definitely of limited duration. And I wondered if, we just wanted to either sit tight with it and see if one of those programs loses its funding, if we could continue it with this.
Yeah. So I do like that idea. A couple of problems with it is that it's finite, that once if we go through the trouble of making some process in order for people to apply and everything and get it, it's only $1,500. This is not going to go far. So if we do use it, I think it has to be done in conjunction with a bigger program that we decide on, of an actual annual budget to go towards subsidies or scholarships or whatever you want to call it. The actually bigger problem is eligibility, because when you start talking about financial aid kind of things, you need a way to qualify people, and we just can't do it with, we can't ask for people's like tax statements. We can't collect personal data we just don't have the resources to take it. We could just do a like a first come, first serve. Like you just have to like fill out a form that says your name and your address and 3 sentences why you need this, and then there's no really qualification. It's just whoever needs it gets it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
that's
guess
a
what I'm
trick.
thinking of is the 2 different programs that are running now, and an application to one qualifies you for both. And so if one of those programs continues, people are making the applications through that program, and we could supplement it.
So
It is only $1,500, as you say.
Right. So that's a good idea, Steve, that because without that program is up and running, we could say your first eligibility, you have to qualify for Lifeline. We shouldn't use EBBP because it's on the way out.
Yeah.
But if you qualify for Lifeline, and it's still, it's only $10 a month. So it's not a significant amount of help. If you need more, we have some very simple way to apply, and confirm with Crocker that it's a Lifeline qualified customer, and then first come, first serve, and you get X amount off
We could
your
do another $10 a month, so
right.
stretch the money for a little bit.
Right. And maybe you'd have to apply annually for it. So let me just do some quick math here. So if we did $1,500 divided by,
One person is 5. Oh, yeah, it is.
yeah.
Well, $10 a month is 120 a year.
120 a year, yeah.
So
Right.
10 people is $1,200. I don't know how many people are getting the Lifeline, but
Yeah.
It sounds clunky and awkward, and then we have to communicate it to people, and then we have to explain a lot of frequently asked questions. So I don't know. How about the Health Commission is one crowd that have done heroic efforts. The DPW, I feel an affinity with them. I have seen them out there on Sundays cutting trees off of roads, and sometimes that, as Jim and I know, sometimes that involves our cables. I would be inclined to somehow or other push the money to. Well, I would suggest we offer the money via whatever the correct process is to them, as either their discretionary budget or just as their budget, and just so they have a sense that we appreciate them and they do support what we do. Sometimes at the weekends, sometimes during storms. So.
All right. That's that's another way we could use the money. So Health Department, DPW, scholarships.
I think I would steer the money more towards serving our customers in some way rather than putting it towards a town. For this, I don't want to get into details about the town financing, but that's sort of a viper's nest of things going on, and I just I would just stay away from it completely and just keep it within our own sort of MLP world. Which brings me to another issue, which I will wait on shortly, because having to do with all the money that's going to become available from the U.S. government, which I have some ideas about how we could spend some of that as well. But it's somewhat related.
I'd put a motion, we table the $1,500
Yeah.
for 6 months.
I totally agree.
Kick it down the road.
Kick it down the road. Let's just do that. It's been there for quite a while anyway, so a few more months won't hurt.
The interest will be good.
Yep. And I'll keep my eye out, if there's a needy family, if that needs an installation, I think that would be a fine way to use it. That's a one-time expense we could also just kind of keep it around, and
that's a good suggestion.
And for installations of low income families who might not be able to, even afford the $200 to get it up and running.
Yeah. when we get our first Afghan refugee or any refugee family renting in town, there you go. That would be
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
All right, we'll kick it.
Gail, I would say maybe in executive session still, just at some point or other, I'm interested to know what Donna's answers were, because we should all understand what those answers were. So, at your convenience on that one.
Yes, I'll let me just make a note to include that when we do next executive session.
Oh, you don't want to just tell us at the end today? Because it'll be fresher in your head if you've had a conversation with her just in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, little secret, I don't keep anything in my head. I write everything down. There's nothing here.
Okay, well, I don't admit to that myself.
There's nothing there.
I would.
I don't keep things in my head. I just don't admit to not knowing.
Yeah.
Gail, this is a slight. I've been, following, as we all have, the enormous amount of money that's going to be made available for broadband, thanks to the very, very recent passage and of the infrastructure bill. And some of it is definitely going to trickle down our way, and we should come up with some ways to spend that. And I had thought of a couple, apart from, of course, getting our backup system in place and the equipment needed to do that. I think we've already had a little bit of a discussion about that. But I was also wondering, and I wonder how this idea sits with all of you. We couldn't, since a lot of it has to do with being able to connect households that don't have service or have a very low quality of service. We still have a number of those in town. And could we offer free installations and get the government to pay for them? Because it seems to me that would be a very good use of this money and easy to obtain. And I can think of one person in particular, which would be an extremely expensive install, providing I can talk them into it, which is another matter altogether, which may or may not work. But those things have been circulating in my mind. I was wondering what you all thought about this.
But
I don't want to talk anyone into it. I wouldn't want to talk someone into it.
But other than that one person, I think we may have that is there anybody else in town that isn't connected? They may
Well,
not
there's still about 10% of eligible properties are not not connected. So,
but was it because they couldn't afford the $200 connection fee? I don't think so.
no, it wasn't. I did not hear from one person who said I really want this, but I can't afford it. It was a lot of people wrote in and said, I don't want this. Stop bugging me about it. We even had those little cards, these little yellow, like bright colored cards that we said, this is your last chance to, get the $200 installation. If you don't sign up now, and there's a box that they checked that said, please stop bugging me. And a lot of people sent it back in and said, no.
Well, they may have changed their minds, considering the success of our, initially they may not have known what it is that they'd be missing, but now maybe they are regretting it.
Jim, your ability as a salesman is impressing me.
Well, thank you. Well, if I can convince this one person that it would be a good idea, and I can go into the details if you want, but
is this in Eric's neighborhood?
Is this where? Is it in Cooleyville
neighborhood?
Yes, you're quite correct.
Yeah.
About that.
Are they a lot of poles away from the last MST? Are they a long way?
Yes, they are a long way. It would be about a 3,000 to 4,000 foot burial of fiber, and it would probably run about 10 to 15,000, I would guess, to install it. But this
I don't want to
person,
waste ARPA money if they're not that worried, then, we shouldn't be spending money just because it seems like it's free
well,
money.
it's not our money. It's going to be the government's money.
I know, but that's
this
our
is-
money, Jim. That's our money.
Yeah.
You know really well that that's our money. So, yeah.
Well, yes, but you know, they are a member of getting the all right, Jim Aaron. Yeah, he's not. They're not in good health. The need for I don't know. I'm going to sound them out and just sort of see what they say. My guess is that they'll still say no, and that'll be it. But I just worry about him a great deal, and because of their isolation. And Anna uses the internet all the time, and and she had to drop out of the personnel committee because she can't participate in Zoom meetings because there's no internet connection, that kind of thing. Now, maybe it'll continue. But that's just one of I think some other people in town who might be now interested in doing this. It's just an idea, I'm not committed to it or anything, but it's occurred to me just because there is this pot of money out there that it would be nice if we found a way to spend some of it.
How does it work? Does the town get a certain amount of the town presumably gets a certain cut, or does the town have to make proposals to get?
That's a good question, and I'm
yeah.
not quite certain about that. We may have to apply for it.
Yeah.
But there's no question about the fact that the money is going to be there, and
it's real
but
money.
how we go about getting it is an interesting question, to say the least,
Yeah.
and that may be a bit of a challenge.
I had a couple thoughts on this. One, there still is the outstanding debt, which unfortunately my understanding of that debt is that there's no prepayment provision in it.
I know.
And I wondered
Cool.
if there's any way to break that and pay a penalty, because if we could pay that debt off,
Mhm.
Yeah,
that would be good. So
that would be a great use of ARPA money. Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure we cannot pay it
Mhm.
off without a penalty. I don't know, the penalty, might be worth it.
If it's ARPA money, then we can
Right.
handle the penalty.
Well, it's also a ton of money as well. Now, I'm not sure, seeing how the money from the CARES Act and other acts that have preceded this have been sort of doled out to the town, and seeing how much money we actually could grab a hold of, and for some of the other ones, the amount of money still due on that loan, which is what now, 700,000, roughly 700,000. I
Yeah.
think that's a little bit more than we could probably get, even if we could get it. But I'm not certain about that, but
Ask for 100,000, 200,000. A chunk.
well, a Greenfield Cooperative Bank might be pretty interested, simply because the current inflation is beginning to climb, which means that they will feel that, boy, I wish we hadn't lent the MLP in Shutesbury all that money, because interest rates are going up, and we could take that money and get a lot better return on it, by loaning it to someone else right now, simply because inflation expectations are climbing day by day by day.
Yep, absolutely.
So we might be able to negotiate with them. I don't know. It's a possibility.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking around, wondering if that would be a possibility.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
other
That would
thing
be
I
a
was
great
thinking-
use of ARPA.
The other thing I was thinking is there a way we could put that money aside, and I don't know where you have to spend it within a certain time frame.
Yeah.
But if you could put it aside towards the new electronics for the hut, and therefore stop having to put the $37,000 a year into our reserve for doing that.
Well, that gets kind of dicey because that means that we're using the money to sort of prop up one of our accounts. And in all of what I've heard so far, listening to people, listening to Becky and others on the finance committee discuss this, it, indicates that that kind of possibility is rather unlikely. But I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know how they're going to dole it out. Buying the two things I do know is that buying equipment would be covered, specific hardware that would be covered, and connecting people, extending broadband service to the home would also is a sure cover. Those two things I know are covered. Paying off the loan, I think may not fly. It's not as good an idea as that is.
It was a capital expense, though, so it might qualify within some time frame.
Yeah. I'd rate that as far less likely, as opposed to buying hardware and hooking people up, which is what they're trying to do with the money.
Yeah, but the broadband capital stabilization fund that we put the 37,000 a year into every year is for buying hardware, but it's buying it like 5 years hence. And of course, we don't want to go out and buy that hardware now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you never want to buy hardware ahead. Jim, there'll probably be someone on the FinCom who will become a specialist in ARPA stuff, right? Maybe you can just kind of like talk to them and. Well,
I've been bringing it up every FinCom meeting. I keep poking Becky about this and saying, we on the broadband have ways that we want to spend this kind of money. So, and just ask, and we will come up with them, and we'll come up with some ways to spend the money. So, I'm keeping this very much alive in our FinCom meetings.
Good. Thank you, Jim.
Well, keep asking then.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think the time stretch on the how long is the money going to be available is 4 to 5 years. So we have some time. It isn't like it has to be bought and paid for within the next year or two. It's part of the original the CARES Act money is more or less over with. That's done, and the town has spent most of that, if not all. Maybe 10,000, I think. But this is a whole new ball game, and it stretches out because infrastructure, building bridges, and God knows what else, is very time consuming, and it has to stretch out over years. So I think the time horizon on this is maybe at least 5 years. So that may coincide with Steve, exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
If we could stop putting 37,000 a year into that fund, we can lower our rates by a significant amount. So.
Yeah, well, it's an idea, but I wouldn't stop putting the 37,000 in until the money is in our hands, because this is a tricky business, but at least we have a legitimate claim, I think.
All right, well, keep us posted on that. Does anyone have anything else before I start talking about some of the contract stuff? No. Okay. We don't have to go into executive session for this. It's nothing private. So we won't be giving any keys to the kingdom away. So the contract stipulates, actually, I was wrong. I went back and I read it carefully, and it's not a 1-year extension. It's anything up to 3 years, because the time limit isn't in the contract itself. Like it doesn't say you can do a 1 year. It just says agreement by both parties can extend the contract. But we can't do more than 3 years without going to town meeting for approval. So it's anywhere from 1 to 3 years. I mean, I suppose we could also do a 2-month extension, but we wouldn't do that.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's good. You really can only extend it once, though. So we couldn't do like extend it 1 year, extend it another year, extend it another year. It's going to be a one-time thing. to do the extension, we just signed a contract amendment. And so Matthew and I would talk, I'd bring the proposal back to the board would approve or disapprove, there'd be a negotiation. I'd write up a one-page amendment, and Donna would look it over and we'd sign it. It seems very straightforward.
Mhm.
Does she say that you're allowed to adjust the price on the contract on the amendment?
You can do anything with a contract. So you can address
Mutually
price,
agreed.
you can address services, it can be anything. There's no restrictions.
Yeah.
The only thing you have to be careful of is price increases. And that's of course not what we're going for.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't even know if we would sign a
Okay, yeah,
contract
yeah.
that had any increase in it.
Yeah. So they would allow
Yeah,
reasonable price increases, but anything beyond that would be.
Right.
But if the price were going up, then I would think we would want to go out to bid.
Probably, yeah. There's no limits on speaking to Holyoke Gas and Electric about an intergovernmental agreement. Doing so does not ruin any future RFP chances for Holyoke Gas and Electric.
Yeah.
It's really, the way Donna said it is, we can talk to anybody about anything. We
Yeah.
could even talk to private vendors. It's after that RFP goes out, Chinese wall, don't talk to anybody.
Okay.
That's what you have to do. But before that, you can gather information, you can get ideas, you can do whatever you want. And yeah, we just need to do this by April, what did I say? April 15th is the deadline. And it has to be signed by that date. So obviously we're not going to get it down to the wire, especially because if it doesn't happen, we need to do the whole RFP process. So my goal is to try to get this done, a deal closed up with Matt, if we can do it by February, really no later than February. And I may be working in parallel on an RFP if it looks like things aren't going well, so that if that happens, it can go out quickly. We shouldn't get our hopes too much up about the pricing, because prices for everything are going up, including Matthew's labor and, cost of running the business and all of that. But I'll see what I can get.
Yeah. Inflation certainly, as
Yeah.
Jim said, has blown up, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. Or at least we're in a good shape, I think.
Yeah. It was so funny when I talked to Donna, she's like, okay, so when is your contract expiring? And I said, oh, June. And she said, it's only October. You're talking to me now? And she said, usually people call me around March.
Yeah, right. Oh, dear.
Well,
Yeah.
we're different.
I was like, oh, that would be bad. But anyway.
This speaks
Or maybe
to our
they call her in
well
July
organized
for
nation.
the contract that expired.
Yeah. Expired 3 weeks ago. What do we do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, when you are talking to the security site segue, but it popped into my head. One piece of hardware that might be very sensible for us to buy is if the security people recommended a fancier firewall hardware than we currently have, one that had more bells and whistles. So that's something that we would have a question about. And if ARPA money could pay for the security review, then that would be a lovely thing.
Oh, that could be a fun use of it.
Consulting.
Yeah.
It's just a consulting service,
Sure.
which sometimes,
Mhm.
even though it's not a capital cost, sometimes such money does, design, consult. I mean, basically, it's design. So, yeah.
All right. That's it for my list. Anybody have anything else? All right. Well, I will see some of you on Saturday and we'll
Oh, yeah,
bring
yeah,
our
10 a.m.
muscles.
Yep.
I remember what I wanted to say.
Okay.
I'm making this enormous sacrifice. I will have to cut out of the four town school meeting early, and I'm sure they're going to miss me terribly.
Yeah.
You would rather move reels of fiber than be
Yeah, I
at the
would
Town
much
School
rather
meeting.
move.
You'd rather
Understood.
beat his
Hang
head
out
on-
with you guys and move
Yeah.
reels of fiber is my idea of a good time. So at any rate, I thought you might be amused by that.
Yes.
Since that meeting, but their meeting, was proposed after our meeting was created. So
It's only fair.
it's
Yeah.
only fair, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's the correct step to,
Yeah,
to make
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, you were preordained and pre
Preordained,
We
exactly.
need you there. Yeah.
Exactly.
And our next meeting date, December 15th.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, see some of you on Saturday.
All right.
Sounds good.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion accepted.
Third, second.
Great.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All
Bye-bye,
right. Have
everyone.
a good week, you guys. Bye.
Aye.
Bye.